At 7:12 p.m. on October 21, 1978, Australian pilot Frederick Valentich reported an unidentified aircraft hovering above him over Bass Strait. Then his transmission ended with 17 seconds of metallic scraping sound. Neither he nor his Cessna 182 were ever found. Moorabbin Airport sits on the southeastern fringe of Melbourne, a general aviation facility unremarkable in every sense, the kind of place where student pilots log hours over flat suburban terrain and learn the grammar of the sky in daylight. Frederick Valentich was 20 years old, a trainee with the Department of Transport's General Aviation arm, working toward a commercial pilot's license that he had twice failed to obtain. He had accumulated roughly 150 hours of flight time. By any standard measure, he was still learning. On the evening of October 21, he filed a flight plan for a single-engine Cessna 182L, registration VHDSJ, and logged a departure from Moorabbin bound for King Island, a small landmass in the middle of Bass Strait, roughly 235 kilometers to the south-southwest. The stated purpose of the flight was to collect a cargo of crayfish. The weather was clear, visibility was good. There was nothing in the filed documentation to suggest the flight would be anything other than routine. Bass Strait is not a place that forgives mistakes. The body of water separating mainland Australia from Tasmania is shallow, turbulent, and cold, notorious for swallowing light aircraft with the same indifference it shows fishing vessels. Valentich would have known this. Every pilot flying that corridor knows it. He departed Moorabbin at approximately 6:19 p.m., climbing to 4,500 feet as he crossed the Victorian coastline at Cape Otway, a rocky headland at the western entrance to the strait. His route south was standard. His radio contact with Melbourne Flight Service Unit was routine. He gave position reports as expected. Then, at 7:06 p.m., the tone of the transmission changed. Valentich asked Melbourne Flight Service whether there was any known traffic in his vicinity below 5,000 feet. The controller confirmed there was none. Valentich then reported a large aircraft passing over him at approximately 1,000 feet above his position, something with 4 bright landing lights, moving at speed. The controller searched the transponder records. Nothing, no flight plan. No secondary radar returned consistent with what Valentich was describing. Whatever he was seeing was not in the system. Over the next several minutes, Valentich's descriptions grew harder to fit into any conventional explanation. The aircraft, he said, was long and metallic. It had an open frame of some kind. It appeared to be orbiting him, circling his Cessna in a manner inconsistent with any normal aircraft operating procedure, at a speed he described as difficult to estimate, but clearly beyond what a light aircraft could sustain in a tight orbit. He orbited him once, then again. Then the unknown object moved to hover directly above him. At 7:09 p.m., Valentich told the controller, "It is not an aircraft." He then reported engine roughness. The Cessna was running unevenly. The airframe was vibrating. He requested the nearest point of diversion. The controller gave him King Island. Valentich acknowledged. Then he said the thing was coming for him again. What the controller heard next has been described in a number of ways over the years, variously as metallic, as scraping, as mechanical, as the sound of something large moving against something it should not be touching. The Australian Department of Transport's own documentation describes it only as an unidentified noise. The recording runs for 17 seconds. Then the signal drops entirely. The controller called Valentich's call sign Delta Sierra Juliet repeatedly into the silence. There was no response. Melbourne Air Traffic Control initiated search and rescue procedures. The Royal Australian Air Force, the Department of Transport, and civilian search teams combed a combined area covering thousands of square kilometers of Bass Strait over the following days. They found nothing. No wreckage, no fuel slick, no debris consistent with a Cessna 182 striking the water at any angle or speed. The investigation that followed was thorough in the narrow sense. Every recoverable fact was documented, every anomaly in the flight record noted. It proceeded methodically for 4 years. The Department of Transport's final report, completed in 1982, recorded the cause of the disappearance as unknown, not pilot error, not mechanical failure, not controlled flight into terrain, unknown. The aircraft had simply ceased to exist somewhere over Bass Strait, and the investigation could not say why, or where, or how. There is a detail that the official record contains, but does not explain. A witness at Cape Otway, on the coastline directly below Valentich's last confirmed position, reported observing a low-flying aircraft that evening accompanied by a green light moving erratically alongside it. The light did not behave like navigation lighting. It did not behave like a strobe. It moved independently of the aircraft and with a quality of motion that the witness found difficult to characterize. The report was logged. It was not resolved. The transcript of Valentich's final communication is held in the public record. His voice, across those 6 minutes of contact, does not perform distress. It reports, it describes, it uses the language of a pilot working methodically through something he does not understand. The last words he transmitted before the noise began were about the strange aircraft and what it was doing. He was still observing, still reporting, still trying to fit what he was seeing into the vocabulary available to him. The official record ends there. The noise runs for 17 seconds. The signal cuts. Frederick Valentich held a student pilot certificate, filed a proper flight plan, followed his departure procedures, and vanished so completely that 4 years of formal investigation produced no physical evidence of what happened to him or his aircraft. What no one has been able to answer, not the investigators, not the engineers, not anyone who has studied the transcript, is what produced those 17 seconds of sound and why it ended where it did.